Warning, the following contains spoilers.
Here it is!
What are you talking about?
All your questions will be answered.
Welcome to the world of
Cinema.
That's our take. Welcome to That's Our Take, where we, the Jacksons, discuss many of the over 12,000 movies we have seen with a focus on classic cinema. Today, we are going to be talking about our favorite films from Billy Wilder.
We'll start with our top fours.
Sounds good.
So on my top four list, it is Some Like It Hot, Double Indemnity, The Lost Weekend, and The Major and the Minor.
And on mine, it is also Some Like It Hot, Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity, and Ace in the Hole. So, I think we could talk about each one of these forever, especially probably Some Like It Hot.
Oh, well, I guess some like it hot.
I think we could talk about for so long. It is so good.
That was at the top of the list for both of us.
Yeah.
So what put it at the top of the list for you?
The jokes are really spot on. The performances are spot on. One of the things I enjoy so much about that movie is the casting. I think this is my favorite. I don't have to think. I know this is my favorite Marilyn Monroe movie. I think she does a really good job with her delivery, and she understands the humor in it really well.
I come from this musical family. My mother is a piano teacher. My father was a conductor
Where did he conduct?
on the Baltimore and Ohio.
And I think Tony Curtis is a really good straight man in this movie.
With all the unrest in the world, I don't think anybody should have a yacht that sleeps more than 12.
And Jack Lemmon is just the show stealer for sure.
Have I got things to tell you? What happened? I'm engaged.
Congratulations. Who's the lucky girl?
I am.
He, I've thought about this a lot. If this movie had been made today, they would probably get like a comedian to play his part. You know what I mean? They would probably get somebody like a Will Ferrell or Jack Black or somebody who's already like just comedy was their thing. But Jack Lemmon wasn't known for just comedy. Like he was known for a lot of stuff. He was just an actor. He wasn't just a comedian, and he was perfect.
Well, that's really interesting thought because when I look at Jack Lemmon's catalog, I think of him as a comedian.
Mm.
So I think he was perfect for the role to begin with. And I'm not sure if it's my favorite Marilyn Monroe performance. I feel like part of it starts off pretty good, and part of her performance kind of wanes towards the mid part of the movie. When she goes in the boys' room, or she thinks it's the girls' room, and is looking for alcohol.
Oh yeah,
But she was going through some personal issues at that time,
yeah.
and she was pretty heavily drinking at that time and super struggling with the film just in general because of her personal issues. So for me, I didn't feel her performance was maybe the best the entire way through.
I get that. In fact, the scene you brought up, I think, is kind of famous because she had like one line that was giving her guff.
Where's that bourbon?
They did like an insane amount of takes because she couldn't get that one line. Yeah, so she was definitely struggling, and I see what you're saying. It shows in her performance.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, this isn't about Marilyn Monroe per se, so it may not be my favorite performance for her, but she's good in it. I'll say that. But Jack Lemmon most definitely is the scene stealer in that it's his movie in my opinion for all intents and purposes. Um and then I always thought of Billy Wilder as being the comedic type of writer, things like that. But when you stop and look at Some Like It Hot, for most comedic films, in my opinion, they're usually around the hour 30, hour 40-minute mark. This movie is 2 hours and 2 minutes,
Yeah,
and that's not typical for comedy. But There is, I always seem to kind of forget, there is some pretty big dramatic elements in the beginning of this film um, that take place around what they're trying to center as the Valentine's massacre. These two individuals, for those who haven't seen the film, they witness basically a gang mobster takedown and they have to go on the lam. And so they dress as women to get away. And there's your gag. Why do these two men have to dress as women? And the things they have to go through or are pretending to do, and just Jack Lemmon's perfect with everything he does, every line, every mannerism, um, hilarious. And so, without him, I don't think the movie would have made it.
Yeah, he's definitely a cornerstone in the film.
But the movie's just it pairs the drama aspect of them needing to hide with the comedic aspect of these two men trying horribly to pass off as women when they themselves are probably very womanizing men and are attracted to women and want to be with women and what that means for them. And so think this probably was one of my first films of Wilder's that I'd ever seen. So to me, that first film, comedy, Wilder must write comedies.
Yeah.
This is not true.
No, no. I mean, it
He
was kind
writes
of.
comedy.
I was gonna say that was kind of his career before he became a director, as he wrote comedies. And then he would continue. He did write a number of them, but
Yeah, but um the other movie that we both agreed on, so we both agreed that Some Like Hot was in our top 4. And although in different placement, we both agreed that the Double Indemnity is in our top 4, which is most definitely not a comedy.
yeah, it's good though. It's kind of the quintessential noir movie. Barb Stanwyck definitely plays that femme fatale character. Our protagonists are not good characters. They're in shady dealings throughout the whole thing, and it's interesting to me how Wilder can write. You think one-liners, and when you think of just that phrase, a one-liner, you think comedy, right? Like good comedic one-liners.
Sure.
And he's perfect at that for his comedies. But he's also so good at those one-liners for his dramas. And I think that's kind of what sets him apart from other writers of the time, is that he had such a wit about him that even he was able to write something clever and sort of funny, although sardonic, in his dramas. Um, and he's just, oh man, such a good writer. And Double Indemnity has some really great lines.
Yes, I killed him. I killed him for money and for a woman. And I didn't get the money, and I didn't get the woman.
Just a great line. And Wilder really knew how to pivot when it came to genre. What if he was writing a comedy, he went all in. If he wrote a dramedy, he went all in. Although there are some movies he made that he tried to balance the both, that I don't think always worked out very well. But he was mentored by Ernest Lubitsch, who did some great movies like Shop Around the Corner, To Be or Not to Be, Heaven Can Wait. I'll say Clooney Brown, our friend Bo, who's probably listening. And Ernest Lubitsch also knew how to really balance the drama and the comedy really well. And Wilder, I don't know if he quite succeeded as well, but he tried, and he did a pretty good job. But his writing skills were just so top notch. Why is Double Indemnity on your list?
It's interesting because again, Wilder, I wasn't quite sure what to expect from what wasn't a comedy from him, considering the fact that I loved the comedy so much. I think it actually takes a lot of effort. This will probably get some people to disagree with me. I think it takes a lot more effort to write really good comedy than it does to write drama. Um, and with that being said, I feel um that having known that about Wilder and then going into this noir drama, wasn't quite sure what to expect because I was like, wow, he is phenomenal. So this has to be good too. But also going into it, Fred McMurray was in it. And I didn't know much about him aside from the old TV show, which I didn't even really watch the old TV show. It's just more that I knew about My Three Sons. Um, which was after this movie, but still, this idea of who I had in my head about the main character, Fred McMurray, with him being this good, upstanding guy, and that is not what this movie is. And so, this may have also been an introduction to me for what is a noir. And so, watching this film, Double Indemnity, about a woman who basically bamboozles a man into helping her with a fake insurance policy type of scheme to get money and murder her husband. Like, as loose of a horrible telling of like that's the basis of it, right? And this really unique thing where you know what he's doing isn't quite right. And you kind of think maybe that it'll work out for him, which is an interesting, like, where do you stand? Because he's making a poor choice. This woman's making a poor choice. There's a murder in here. But where do you stand with this idea of, like, well, what's right, what's wrong? And so it for that whole noir, it was probably, like I said, the first one I'd ever seen. And with Wilder's writing, he is able just to paint such profound pictures with some of the simplest dialogue. It doesn't have to be extravagant and take pages. I'm not reading Shakespeare describe the sun for 4 pages here, but I feel moved by his words quickly. Just it's like point blank. It doesn't have the ruffles. It doesn't have,
It's not flowery.
yeah, it doesn't pretend to be anything that it's not. And I think that's where Wilder's writing is, like, for me, so relatable because it's true and it feels realistic. And these characters feel realistic. And I think that's what Wilder is able to do in these films that he writes. He writes people. He doesn't write a character for someone to act. He writes people, and that's why they can do these characters.
Oh yeah, that's a really great point, and we'll get to one of the movies where I think he does a great job with that. Is on your list is The Lost Weekend too. Yeah, it's a really great point. He writes people really well.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes Wilder's films relatable and watchable, and why so many people kind of flock to his films. But I also feel that's what makes kind of I don't know how to say it. I feel like Wilder's ability to get human connection is so good that it's hard for people to agree if a movie is a comedy or a dramatic piece of work because it's so true to life. So, while this movie did not make it on my list, it is on many people's lists for great Wilder films, which is The Apartment, also with Fred MacMurray, also a deplorable man in a different way in that one. But many people will say it's a great comedy, and other people will say no, it's a great drama. And I see it as a drama, and I don't see it as a great drama. I see it as a full flat out drama, but I feel like I was misinformed the first time I saw it because so many people say it's funny. So I was expecting something akin to Some Like It Hot because it's funny with some drama. It's hilarious. That is not The Apartment for me. And so watching The Apartment as something that's supposed to be funny isn't for me. And so, despite not liking that film of his as much, his people are still realistic people. Like, at no point do I doubt that any of those people were acting. It felt real.
Yeah, it's very genuine.
It's just a snapshot of someone's life. They've been filmed and we're watching it. And so I feel that's kind of what Wilder has a really good ability with doing is giving us what feels like very intimate moments in people's lives, especially with his more dramatic work, um, where you feel almost like, should I be privy to this person's experience? So you brought up the movie The Lost Weekend,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel is that. So that one has Ray Milland in it, and it was on my list. It's basically a man's journey through his alcohol addiction.
It shrinks my liver, doesn't it, Ned? It pickles my kidneys, yes. But what does it do to my mind? It tosses the sandbags overboard so the balloon can soar. Suddenly I'm above the ordinary. I'm competent, supremely competent. I'm walking a tightrope over Niagara Falls. I'm one of the great ones.
It is intense, but it feels raw and true, and I feel so realistic that Wilder had to have had an experience where he knew someone who was addicted to something, be it alcohol or something, because it is written in such a way that it is, like I said, so raw that you're like, this has been an experience in someone's life. I don't know. It surprised me when I saw it. I didn't think I was gonna like it. I like movies to kind of have a hopeful message. I tend to gravitate towards movies that are more lighthearted in nature, are more comedic in presence, um, more. This sounds weird about a black and white movie, but more colorful, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that they feel like Some Like It Hot's in black and white, but
It's animated.
it's lively, right?
That's a good word.
Whereas The Lost Weekend, it's bleak, and you don't feel that joy through it. And so the fact that I enjoyed this one um was just so shocking to me.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely probably one of the more bleak movies I think you've enjoyed. From what I understand, what you were talking about, that he knew someone. From what I understand, I'm trying to find it here, but yeah, it's based on a novel, I believe, but
It is the novel, or it was a bestseller.
it's actually, I think, The Last
I thought
Weekend.
it was called The Last Weekend, but it was a typo, or misprint, so it was supposed to be the last weekend.
Yeah. But man, The Lost Weekend really just is so much better of a title.
I agree.
Really sums up the movie very well. It was a huge success, and I think a big reason why my thought is, and some of what I've read before, this is 1945. The war was ending or had ended by the time. The effect that I think this movie had on a war experienced, a war-torn America, I think was huge. I think with soldiers coming back home, dealing with what they called shock, shell shock or PTSD, with families dealing with the loss of members through the war. Alcohol was kind of the thing. And I think this movie was like a real eye opener for a lot of people, to be like, you know, this is serious. This is a dangerous lifestyle. And so I think that's part of the reason why it was such a big hit with the audiences. And then it won like 4 Academy Awards, I think. Yeah, it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writing. I think Best Writing, and Ray Milland won for Best Lead, and deservedly so.
For sure.
He is so good in this movie. If I remember correctly, he himself struggled with some alcoholism.
And I just want to clarify, Milan did not have a drinking problem. He did try to do some research for the role, and it made him so sick when he drank alcohol. So he didn't drink. So supposedly the rumors are because of his amazing portrayal in the movie. So that's just a testament to how good he is, and also not just his acting, but how well it was written and conceptualized, right? Because just because you say something doesn't make it so. So he can stand up and say, I'm an alcoholic. Listen, I'm an alcoholic. Well, that's not going to sell people on it, right? So Wilder's writing, Wilder's direction, Ray Milland's performance, that's what sold it. So, just phenomenal ability. So,
And you're so right when you talk about Wilder writing these people, even if it's not alcohol, right? If it's just something that's some addiction or something that's taking somebody away from you in their life, in your life, this movie really speaks to that. It really speaks to someone being just overcome by something and they need help. And I don't know. One of the things I wanted to bring up was as a writer, Billy Wilder is just phenomenal. He can write. But as a director too, he's so good. He got into directing because he was tired of his scripts being changed by directors, and he kept pushing to become a director, and finally got his wish. And we'll talk about the movie because it's on your list, that he got that wish for realized. But he became a director, and he's really good. He studied under Howard Hawks when he wrote Ball of Fire. Hawks really helped him out in learning how to make a movie, and he's so good. One of my favorite things that Wilder does is the introduction of characters and the introduction of movies. And so case in point, so like Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity, the way he introduces Phyllis in Double Indemnity, the way he introduces Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, is they're placed high above the men that they are being introduced to. They're both kind of in this sort of prison-like thing, but they have control. And then the way he introduces movies, like Ace in the Hole, he starts the movie out on the dirt, and it's just like, this is what the movie's going to be. It's about people who are dirt. It's about being in the dirt. It's about being stuck. He starts Sunset Boulevard in the gutter, this glamorous place, and he starts it in the gutter. Double Indemnity starts off with Fred McMurray's character, but in silhouette, you just see a shadowed, broken man walking. And Lost Weekend, even, he does kind of a Hitchcock thing where he goes into a window. But the Lost Weekend, he starts off, the first thing you see after you see the cityscape is the bottle of alcohol hanging outside of Ray Milland's room. And it just tells you right there so much. This guy he's got an issue, he's trying to hide it, he's trying to be sneaky. It just tells you so much in just that frame. And Ray Milland does such a good job. He's looking out the window. He's not even looking at the bottle. He just keeps looking out the window, and you know what he's thinking. And you can see his mouth water. It's just Wilder's such a great director, as good as he is a writer, I think.
That was one that just kind of took me off guard when it came to Wilder's collection of things he's written and directed. That was probably the one that I was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
And I want to segue from that to the other movie you have on your list, also starring Milland, The Major and the Minor, which is, I mean, if you can go on a scale of performances, Ray Milland's performance in Major and the Minor to The Lost Weekend, only separated by a few years. I mean, oh my goodness, what a difference! And tell us, why is The Major and the Minor on your list?
It is just a hilarious, cute film. And Ginger Rogers, again, in this, known primarily for her dancing, not a dancing role. She does a little dance in it, but it's not like she's showing off or showcasing any of her dancing. So I feel like we need to go through kind of the premise of the film so people can understand what we're going to talk about. Major and the Minor. On paper and probably vocally, it sounds like this movie should not work. And maybe it shouldn't have. I'm kind of curious how it even got greenlit to begin with. But with that being said, Ginger Rogers is in, New York City, I assume. I can't remember. She's in New York City. She's trying to make it. She's been there like a year. Things don't work out for her. She decides she's done with the big city. She's going to go back to her little podunk type town. She has saved the money for the cost of the ticket. And when she gets to go to the bus station or train station, I should say with the train station, to purchase her ticket, the fare has increased. She does not have as much as she needs to purchase her ticket. To which she overhears a child's ticket is half price. So she devises a plan to try to pass as a 12-year-old girl. It is such suspension of reality, and I don't think it could work any other way. And then
That's not even the most unbelievable part.
no, and then she ends up on the train and she's trying to pass for 12. And then some people are pretty hip to the fact that they don't believe this girl's 12. And I'll say this, they do a good job of making her as basic and unglamorized as possible, which makes her look much younger. They do a great job with this. I still don't think she looks 12, but she does look quite a bit younger.
Yeah, I'd say like in her teens.
We're just going to pretend it's 12. But then she meets Ray Milland's character because she's basically running away from the conductors who are kind of onto her that this is all just farce, And Ray Milland's character works because, one, he's like practically blind in one eye.
Yeah.
And this is not a joke. They make mention of it multiple times that he has a bum eye and can't see well.
You know, Susan, when I look at you with just my bum eye, you look almost grown up.
So you put that with the fact that he's just a good guy. He's a major. He's in the army. He wants to do right, help out a little kid who needs help, and love blooms, but not in a everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, this is disgusting." It's not a pedophilic way. He is trying to take care of this girl. He doesn't dote on her. He's just trying to be a nice guy.
Yeah, I don't see
And
it as romantic.
no, not at all. It's not a love. It's just like care. But she starts to really like him because he's a good guy and, all these things that he is for his character. Um, she starts to like. And then the problem comes in, how does she come clean with the fact that she's not a 12-year-old girl, that she's a 30-year-old woman, and that she's in love with him?
Yeah,
It's interesting. It really is. And there are some people who will say this is a total pedophilic type movie. I don't feel that's his intent and goal in this film at all. And I think it's a cute film and it's funny. But without Ray Milland in that character playing the good natured, almost naive general or major, playing that major who is maybe oblivious that anyone would ever do something like this and also has that bum eye, so he's just kind of taken for face value what someone's telling him. I'm 12 years old. All right, you said you're 12, I believe you, right? Um he's not a questioning guy when it comes to things like that. He's just a guy who's going to help out. So, with that being said, it really comes from a place of,
innocence.
yeah. And so I think it can be a movie that's watched and enjoyed. It is not a movie that could be remade in any way, shape, or form today. I did look it up last night. The movie was remade in the 50s, is that what I said? But it was a Jerry Lewis movie and Dean Martin movie. And so it doesn't seem like maybe there was that
Romantic element.
maybe romantic element. And Jerry Lewis played like a younger kid. So that's the only way you could remake it. It's gonna be one that divides people. It really is, because either you're gonna say, all right, so you have your suspension of disbelief that there's a 30-year-old woman who looks like she's gonna be 12. Like, you have to just let it be a comedic movie, or else you're gonna hate it.
Yeah, it's an impossible movie. Like you said, I'm not too sure how it got greenlit. I all I can say is that the people that did let it go, that said let's make this movie, they read the script and they bought it. Because I think, like you said, Ray Milland is perfect. This movie is all about the tightness of the script and how great of a performance that Ray Milland gives.
When did this come in relation to Lost Weekend?
3 years before.
This was 3 years before?
Yeah, and in my opinion, and we just watched it recently, and I said this then, this is probably his best performance.
You think this is Ray Milland's best performance?
I really do, because how do you get across?
He has concern for someone, is what I would say.
Almost paternally.
Yes, in fact, he even says, "Call me Uncle
Yeah, Uncle Philip.
Philip." Okay, so he's like,
He takes her under his wing, and
but I would argue their time together on camera as young girl and Uncle Philip is little. So he's doing whatever he does as his major role, and she's at the school and being educated kind of on what they do there with these young boys who are basically in a military like school. And so her time is mostly spent with teenage boys. I bet their screen time together as the major and the minor isn't as much as you would expect it to be.
That's true. She spends a good deal amount of time with the students there at the school and her confidant, her one confidant.
And I want to point out, he does have a fiance who he's prepared and ready to marry the entire film. At no point does he say to her, because of Ginger Rogers' character, that he doesn't want to marry her. At no point is that ever even a thing. Even when you can tell that on Ginger Rogers' side that she is smitten with him, right? She's in love with the major, she likes the major. He's oblivious to it. He has a fiance that he's getting ready to marry. And then she doesn't stay with the major. She stays with the major's fiance and sister at their house. So there's nothing inappropriate or skeezy or creepy going on there either. And so I think they treated it in the best way possible. And although the engagement does break up, none of it has to do with Ginger Rogers on his side. And so I think that's a real big tell that it's not like a pedophilic story because she is not a motivator for him with those things. There's things she does that impact his decisions, but he's not even aware of it. So he's a major, he feels the country is going to be going to war and he wants to prepare and go be part of the solution in his opinion. And so his fiance, who has some clout, asks a friend to make it so it doesn't happen. But Ginger Rogers kind of finds out about this and is able to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, intercepts this message and turns it into the favor of Ray Milland being able to get what he wants, which is called and stationed somewhere where he feels effective and work. And ultimately that's what they're undoing is the fact that he wants to go somewhere where he feels important and his fiance doesn't. So that's how Ginger Rogers impacts that, but Ray Milland's character is still completely oblivious that Rogers has any impact on this or that there was any other option except for him to go. So when people are like, oh, it's gross, old man, young girl, I don't see that in this.
Yeah, it really is not that way. And then I think again, attributed to his performance and to just Wilder's ability to get. He was so dialed in on what he wanted to come across in this movie, and he wrote it as perfectly as it could be written, and he got out performances the best performances he could from everybody, and there's no one else I think that could have done it like he did, and that's what I'm saying. It's an impossible movie. There's it shouldn't work, but he made it work, and it was hilarious. It's just so good. I actually think too, the Major and the Minor is sort of a test run for Some Like It Hot, where he takes something or someone,
So clearly absurd,
yeah,
and wants to see if people will buy it.
right, taking a character in pretense, like this character is now going to be something they are not, and yeah, let's see if, first of all, if the audience buys it, and if the characters in the movie buy it, right? And maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's like, let's see if the characters in the movie buy it, and then maybe the audience will buy it. But yeah, I feel Major the Minor is sort of a test run for. I'm not saying he had Some Like It Hot in his mind, but I think he was able to kind of go back to that and be like, I've done this before. I've been able to take a character and disguise them and so on and so forth. And they have the same romantic issue in Some Like It Hot. Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe, right? So Marilyn Monroe the whole time just thinks of him as one of the gals, but he's like totally smitten with her. How do you change that? He does, of course, do something different where he gets to pretend to be a Cary Grant character. Tony Curtis as that other guy, so he gets to have an out, sort of. Milland and Ginger Rogers didn't, but Major the Minor's so good, and it's worthy of being on a top 4 list for sure. And I would recommend, despite how crazy and kooky and weird it sounds, it is so much better than you think it's going to be. It is. It really is so much better.
Just to give some context to the things that we're talking about. So we typically use Letterboxd, which is that movie app that we've talked about. And when we look at the films that we are talking about today, Some Like It Hot on a scale of 1 to 5 scale has an average scale rating of a 4.3 on Letterboxd.
Pretty good.
Double Indemnity also has a 4.3 average. The Lost Weekend, which was my choice on mine for the third best, was a 4.0. And then The Major and the Minor has a 3.6, which I think, considering how kooky it is and everything we just said, is pretty darn good to have above a 3.5. The only other 2 we didn't give ratings on that I want to real quick, Sunset Boulevard, which at one point in life I would have said was Jason's most favorite movie, was a 4.4. And then Ace in a Hole is a 4.3. So that is on Letterboxd. I want to check them against IMDb real quick. That scale rating is on 0 to 10. So Some Like It Hot is an 8.2 on IMDb. Major and the Minor has an average 7.3. Now, it has much fewer reviews on here, but I'm just going to say a 7.3 with over 8,000 people who've reviewed it on IMDb is pretty good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet that, as weird as it sounds, the movie was well accepted by a lot of people. And I think we could safely recommend this movie for people to watch it.
So the one film I don't think we've there's 2 films we really haven't touched on, are on your list are Sunset Boulevard and then Ace in the Hole. So let's start with Sunset Boulevard, which at one point I would have said is your top film, but now it's your number 2 film.
Yeah, I think everyone's favorites kind of evolve and
No,
change.
everything stays the same and nothing ever changes.
Well, I'm different. Things change, but Sunset Boulevard is still very much up there for me. It is. I love movies. I love movies
What?
about movies.
You love movies about movies?
Yeah. Thing about Sunset Boulevard, I watched it in a film class, and the instructor was really good. Although he gave things away, unfortunately, but he was very good on getting us to recognize the style and the technique that was used in the making of the movie. So as I mentioned before, the movie starts off in the gutter, which is just telling of the whole movie, right? That's where the opening credits start. We then see a dead body. The story is told from that dead body. Again, we're already given this movie's not going to end very well. That's kind of noirish, right? The fatalistic kind of thing.
Yeah.
And William Holden's in it, and that's somebody that Wilder used frequently, like in Sabrina and Stalag 17 and Fedora, and I think another one I can't think of right now. But William Holden is so good at delivering the Billy Wilder lines, the lines of cynicism, right? The ones that are just, I don't know, bitter about the world, but in a very funny and witty way.
You see, the body of a young man was found floating in the pool of her mansion, with 2 shots in his back and 1 in his stomach. Nobody important, really. Just a movie writer with a couple of B pictures to his credit. The poor dope. He always wanted a pool.
That's Wilder, and that's how William Holden is. He's so good at that. Is that delivery, and then Gloria Swanson, who plays Norman Desmond, was a huge star in the silent era, and she's almost playing an autobiographical character in this. She's playing somebody who was once famous and is now not so much. There's that great line.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures. Used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
And that's how she sees herself, and she's spectacular. The movie is just gold to me. The treatment of Hollywood at the time, the treatment of Hollywood's treatment of its actors and actresses, its treatment of its writers, it's still relevant today, because they trap women into certain roles, they trap writers into certain roles, and I think the movie is just so spectacular. We got to see it. We got to be part of actually screening of this a while back at the Electric Theater, and the topic was brought up on what genre is it, and you and I were both kind of like, well, it's almost like a horror movie, because of how Norman Desmond like traps William Holden's character, and it's it's so grotesque, her performance, and it's monstrous. It's just this kind of scary situation that he's in, and I don't know. I think it could be many different genres. It could be noir, it could be drama, it could be a suspense film, even. It's
It's not a comedy.
well, it's funny. I mean,
Morbidly funny.
it's a dark comedy, maybe. It has a lot of great humor. Anyway, fantastic movie. I couldn't recommend it anymore. Sunset Boulevard.
So let's go to your last film that we'll talk about for our top Wilder, which is Ace in the Hole.
Yeah, so it was because of the success of Sunset Boulevard that Wilder was kind of given the complete go-ahead to do his next movie, which he chose to do was Ace in the Hole. And just watching it again recently, and it's for me definitely deserving to be in the top 4. He writes comedy really well. We've discussed that. I think another thing he writes really well, and probably the thing he's best at, is writing despicable characters.
For sure. And there is not a shortage of despicable characters in Ace in the Hole.
Correct. Totally
There's
correct.
plenty. And those that actually kind of grow from Charles Tatum's character, the amount of people that are impacted by him and swayed by him, it's just a growing virus of deplorableness. And so it's so well written. Um, it's a rough watch though.
It is. I completely agree. I guess the gist of it, to give you an idea, is he's this kind of down and out reporter who is down and out because he's not
Of his own choice.
yeah, he's not a morally good person. So he's made some bad choices.
You'll be glad to know that I've been fired from 11 papers with a total circulation of 7 million. For reasons with which I don't want to bore you.
Go ahead, bore me.
You strike me as a cautious man. A man who checks and double checks. So I'll tell you why I was fired. In New York, a story of mine brought on a libel suit. In Chicago, I started something with a publisher's wife. In Detroit, I was caught drinking out of season. In Cleveland,
I get the picture.
So he's a drifter, and when he basically burns one bridge, he goes to wherever he can to continue his writing career, because that's what he really wants to do. He wants to be the big thing. He wants to tell the story, he wants to write, and he wants the story to be told by him. But he burns his bridges through one way or another. Wherever he goes, he burns a bridge. And so he ends up in this very small little place, and he thinks he's going to be better than he is, and he's only going to be there a short time. But a year comes and goes, and he's still stuck in this small little place that's getting him nowhere.
Yeah. And then a big story erupts.
Is it a big story?
Well, that's a good point. A story happens, and it was a man gets stuck in a cave, and it probably is something that could have been resolved pretty quickly. But he makes it into a big story. They say in the movie, they repeat, we didn't make it happen, but he makes it happen, right? He turns it into something bigger. And it is definitely a great commentary on media, on making mountains out of molehills, right? Turning something that's probably easily taken care of and sensationalizing it. And you're absolutely right. And his influence the other characters. He's like this devil character that comes in and feeds lies to people and bloats them up and then makes them feel bad for it. And he gets all the glory, throughout the whole thing. And it is, like you said, a rough watch because our main guy is this guy. He's the one we're following. This person who's just not a good person. He's not making good choices at all. And we're never lied to him about him. We're never lied to about him, I should say. He starts off being deplorable and he just continues getting worse. And yeah, it's very much like Double Indemnity in that sense, where there's the main people are just not good people. Or at least people that are making poor choices. And Kirk Douglas just turns in such a fine performance. Just knockout performance for sure. I highly recommend checking it out. Again, great writing, great direction, and just a fine performance.
So, in a nutshell, Billy Wilder, great writer.
Great director. Write to us, tell us what your favorite Wilder movies are. If you don't have any, tell us some of your favorite movies, older movies, newer movies, and maybe we can find something for you that we can recommend that we think you might like. Thank you again for listening, fans. We appreciate it. And this has been Laura and Jason, and
that's our take.